All right, so what I've done here is I've picked up my paint, and when you're painting a basic leaf stroke, you're going to start with your brush kind of at an angle. So this is straight up and down, this is a little bit at an angle. And I'm just going to press down with my brush and drag that along my paper while slowly lifting up to create that point here at the end. And then I'm just going to repeat that same thing, overlapping my first stroke. And that is all I do to get a basic leaf. You can also do this with just one stroke by just pressing down and then pulling up. And that is your basic leaf. All right, so the next one is a sprig, and you're going to be using the same stroke, but you're just going to connect it to a stem. So I'm painting this little stem first, and I did that by using really, really light pressure. The best way to do that is to just kind of rest your brush and your wrist, and then just drag your whole entire arm rather than trying to balance and paint, because when I try and balance, it just gets all wavy and bumpy and it's not as consistent. And then you'll just add your leaves right onto the stem. So you'll start right on the stem and then come out from there. And one important thing you want to remember when you're painting these sprigs is the angle that you're looking for. Let me just paint really quick a little line. You don't want to angle your brush outward, because then you'll get these strange little, unless that's what you're going for, I guess. But you want to create more of a V shape when you're building out your petals. So make sure you pay attention to the angle that the end of your brush is pointing to, because that's the way your leaf is going to go. Okay, that is the second leaf that you can go to. I'm going to add in a little bit of yellow ochre. These bristles are way more flexible than I'm used to, but that's okay. Okay, the next one is going to be just like this, but we're going to lengthen the leaves just a little bit. So start with that stem, and then rather than doing a short leaf, you're just going to drag that a little bit longer until you get a longer leaf. And I'm just going to vary the color a little bit as I go here. Beth, tell me more about the lines in the leaf that you're talking about. When I finish doing my demo, I will open it up for a Q&A, and then I can answer your questions. Sorry if you hear some stomping around upstairs. Usually I like to paint during nap time, but my son refused to take a nap today, so that is what we're dealing with. All right, so there you go. These are basically the same strokes. We just dragged this leaf out a little bit more, and it totally changed the look, which is really fun. Okay, the next one is a ruffled leaf. And I like to use this one when I'm painting roses or sunflowers. And I'm going to paint this one facing the other direction just because it's easier for me. If it's easier for you to go this way, then by all means do that. So we're starting with our basic leaf. And then while the paint is still wet, now that's really important. You want to do this while the paint is still wet. You're just going to add some extra strokes and drag those back toward the center to create that ruffle. Now the reason you want to wait, or you want to make sure your paint is still wet, is so that everything will just kind of blend together. Let me show you what happens if you wait. So I'll paint that leaf and then we'll come back to that in just a second. Now the last one is kind of a more rounded leaf, what you would see in like a eucalyptus or something like that. I'm adding in a little bit of Payne's Gray, a lot of water, and a tiny bit of this cobalt turquoise. We're just going to make this really lovely green-gray color. And actually I'm going to add in just a tiny bit of that quinacridone rose. Okay, now for this one, we're going to start just like the basic leaf, but we're going to just keep curving, almost like you're painting a heart, but you'll see. So then we'll start on the other side, and then just kind of round that out. And while the paint is still wet, that's when you want to fill that in. Now the paper that I'm using is a lower quality, so the paint dries really, really fast. If you were using a higher quality paper like Blick Premier or Arches, that paint is going to sit on top for a little bit longer, giving you a little bit more time to play with bleeds and blending your strokes together. So that is the eucalyptus. Now I'm going to add a stem in a moment after that dries. But let's come back to this and I'll show you what happens if you wait for it to dry. If I try and add in my strokes now, you'll see the line right here where I had my basic leaf. And then it's darker here where I've added my other strokes. I mean, you can go on top of it like this and blend those out, but you're still going to see that basic leaf underneath. So that's why it's important to just work while the paint is still wet. I'm going to start mixing my brown for my stem, and I'm using raw umber violet, and then I'm going to add in a little bit of that quinacridone rose. I use this all the time. I love this color. And that turned a little bit more purple than I want. So I'm just going to add in some yellow ochre, make that a little more brown. And it looks like my paint is still wet, so I'm just going to let that dry for another minute. And as soon as I finish this, then I'm going to open this up for a Q&A. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type those in the comment box. But to add the stem, I'm just going to come up here and see that wasn't all the way dry yet. But just for the sake of time, so you can see kind of what we're working with here. You can always start with the stem. You don't have to add the stem afterward. Something like that. And of course, any of these shapes that we painted, you can add to a stem, and then you've got a whole new greenery that you can work with. There's no reason to keep everything photorealistic. You can take creative liberties when you're painting, and if there's a new leaf shape that you love, you can add that onto a stem. You can make it part of a filler flower. So like we want to make these tiny little ruffled leaves. And just play with the size and color, and then you've got a whole bunch of different flowers to play with. We added those to some little berries. So hopefully this was helpful for you. And then I'll stick around just for another minute for a Q&A. I've had a lot of questions lately about color mixing, and I'm in the process of putting together a course on Skillshare. It'll be my first course on Skillshare, but I'm really excited to become a teacher on there. I've got a lot of viewers on YouTube who are also part of Skillshare, so I think that'll be really good. I am in the middle of moving right now, so things are a little bit crazy, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks things will start to get back into a normal routine. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to grab my smaller brush. The veins in the leaves. So there are a few different approaches. You can always use the same brush and just add in your veins using very light pressure by holding your brush straight up and down. Or you can switch to a smaller brush. That's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to add veins to this. And you want to wait until your leaf is completely dry before you add veins, otherwise they'll just kind of blend into the rest of the flower. Happy New Year! Alright, let's see. And then you can decide how you want to add veins depending on what kind of leaf you're painting. So for something like this, I'm just going to keep the veins really, really simple and just do a single line. This is where things get a little more fun because this is overlapping, so I can bring that up. And maybe I want to add a little bit of shading here. And while I'm adding veins to these leaves, feel free to ask any questions. It does not have to be related to leaves. And while you're here, I just started a new Facebook group, and you can find that, I think it's facebook.com/groups/Snowberry Design Co. You can also find the link by going to snowberrydesignco.com/now. And it's a free group, but that'll be a great place to share your work, ask questions. I'll be doing more live videos like this over on that Facebook group. So if you enjoy this, then come join us over there. All right, let's see. I'm going to add an even darker vein to this ruffled leaf. And I've just totally smeared that. It's all over my hand, but that's just how it goes. So I always start with that center line. It just gives me a nice guideline to work from. And then, especially with these leaves, I kind of have a point to work from with these little points. And then I just make sure I follow the curve of my leaf and bring it back to the center. But there's really no rhyme or reason. I don't try to look at a reference photo and match it exactly. My whole objective is to just capture the feeling of the flower. So if you can look at it and say, oh yeah, that looks like a willow, or that looks like a sprig, then that is all that matters to me. Will I be doing a video on misty trees? I am not sure yet. My sole focus has been flowers, so everything that pertains to flowers I will paint on here. Misty trees, that might be something in the future. I haven't thought about it too much. All right, I will stick around for another couple of minutes. Thank you so much for joining me. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to join me over on our Facebook group. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get to know you all and share more of the behind the scenes of this little YouTube channel and everything, so it's going to be awesome. Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. If you have any questions and I didn't get to them, you can always send me a direct message on Instagram. I'm pretty good about checking those. So I'm Snowberry Design Co. over on Instagram, and you can send me your questions there or in the comments down below. All right, thanks for watching. See you later.